Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play Cast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka magicman, and this is episode 317. We're recording on November 1st, the day after Halloween. You're watching it on the same day, well, same night, because it's probably going to take a while to process on YouTube, but we waited until after BlizzCon's opening ceremony to record so we could talk about all the free-to-play news. BlizzCon was sure to drop. And we got like one thing for you. But that's all right. We'll give our opinions on the rest of BlizzCon too. Joining me to do just that, our co-host, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I don't need real topics to talk about. I'll just ramble on about whatever.
Just whatever. Guild Wars 2, it's not going too good with those skin things.
No.
Or whatever it is, right?
Build templates.
Yeah, the build templates. Sorry. That's not going too well. Still, weeks later.
Still.
Also on the line, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
So basically, we're going to spend the show listening to Jason talk about what he hates.
Okay. Yeah.
So normal.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like swap hard drives as we go because that's a long list of things.
How many
Jason
petabytes
hates.
you got there?
Right, exactly. But anyway, let's slide over and get started with the actual news. All right, so as mentioned, we waited until the BlizzCon opening ceremony because, quite frankly, the rest of the week, it was pretty small news, here and there. It was the week of Halloween. Yesterday, my favorite holiday. Absolutely love it. Carved my pumpkins yesterday. Our trick-or-treating was delayed until Saturday around here due to some pretty wild inclement weather. I remember trick-or-treating like in rain and in snow and stuff, and I've taken my kids a few times in rain and snow, but yesterday was kind of like rain and monsoon winds, so it was a bit of a different experience. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. I know it's not the same, I agree, but it is what it is. But I carved my pumpkins last night, so that was cool. So we held off, and we got BlizzCon starting today. On Friday, and they started, of course, with their opening ceremony, which you could have watched whether you had the virtual ticket or not, and you can hit Blizzard's YouTube channel up for all the reveal trailers and gameplay trailers that were part of that opening ceremony. Now, as part of that, there was some free-to-play news, so I feel like we'll start with that. We'll start with Hearthstone. We'll talk about the free-to-play news, because that was the biggest free-to-play news there. Heroes of the Storm Q is green again. Q is green again.
No, she's not. There we go.
Heroes of the Storm, I guess it's not, they're not shutting it down. So there you go. That was really the only news we got out of that. And we already knew that Deathwing was coming to Heroes of the Storm. That was really the only thing that they announced, was that he would be playable on the floor. There we go. Heroes of the Storm. StarCraft 2, not a lot of news there. Getting a new, whatever that's champion or hero for the mission stuff. There you go. So, Q, you are still green.
But not on my display thing that's coming late.
Never on your display. It's always perfect for you.
Yeah, you are in Skype, so it's not just an XSplit thing. You are green in Skype.
So it's somewhere in between.
Yep.
I guess.
That's all right. We'll deal with it because it seems to be going off and on anyway. So, Jason, Hearthstone received the bulk of the free-to-play news, other than the other two games still exist and are getting a new character. And honestly, I was surprised by how much news there was. I think we all went into this BlizzCon kind of expecting them to announce a new set, right? I mean, that's just pretty standard. They did that and more. Before we get to the individual game, though, I want to get your opinions real quick on the way the ceremony opened. It opened with a statement kind of addressing the whole Hong Kong situation and the bans and the way that Blizzard reacted, and then the retraction of some of the penalties, but stating that, there was still going to be some penalty because they opened with a statement before they did the countdown for the opening ceremony. Jason, we all kind of talked behind the scenes, didn't really add anything, besides we reacted too fast, we're sorry, we'll do better. But we think that we still should have reacted and would have, either way. I thought it was very ironic that the statements were made about, hey, we don't want our games getting into politics or into questionable, divisive topics, stuff like that, while the person giving the statements was wearing a pride pin. I thought that was a little, and not just a pride pin, it was the Blizzard logo in a pride pin. So it was very company statement. I'm not here to argue whether you agree or disagree with whether he should have been wearing it. I don't care. However, I thought it ironic that the company's logo was changed into a pride pin for a company that is kind of sitting on a landmine trying to say, we don't want to be involved in those types of statements, and either way the statement goes, pro or con for a given statement, it doesn't have any place in our game. I thought that was a little touch of irony that maybe was overlooked. But I thought it was brilliant that they opened with it. Now, Jason, you kind of disagreed with me here on this one, just because they didn't add anything content-wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was basically the same stuff that was said in that statement that he put out a few weeks ago. Although, at least now we know this wasn't written by a Chinese person. He definitely said it. We're sure of that. But yeah, and then he said, "Well, I hope it's clear to everyone's right to express themselves in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of places. We'll do better, so forth and so on." And yet, remember one of the things that they did after that, especially after the American University guys, they held up that sign during the Hearthstone tournaments. Yeah. Since then, they've just been showing like card backs in place of competitor images on the during their competitive streams. They're doing the same thing for the Overwatch League World Cup, for the Overwatch World Cup. They're not showing any of the players. Now, I don't know for certain if they've said that they're there, like they're at BlizzCon, the competitors are. Because like with some of the other stuff that they do, like the minor league stuff, they don't actually put them in a location like Overwatch League. So I don't know for sure if they're actually there, but the way they've talked about it, it kind of sounds like it. But the fact that they're not willing to put cameras on people still. Even yesterday, in fact, I watched the Hong Kong team play in Overwatch World Cup. No cameras on them, no cameras on anybody else. So he doesn't really mean it, basically. Nothing's changed. They're still, at some point, like when Overwatch League starts up next year, they're going to have to put cameras back on people, I think.
Yeah, and I thought, they did bring up the phrase, they want players to be able to express themselves. Yeah. But not in our forum.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet, and not in our forum. Q, I thought that, while I totally agree with Jason, the statement didn't add anything. It certainly didn't hurt, and I thought it was a brilliant way to open. Even if it was just the same statement again, there's nothing to lambaste Blizzard for in that statement that they haven't already received negative headlines for, right? They couldn't hurt themselves headline-wise with what they actually said. But if they had said nothing, I think that in itself becomes a headline, that Blizzard is just kind of pretending this didn't happen during their BlizzCon event. So I thought it was kind of brilliant that they led with it. Let's put it out there. We don't intend to say anything new, so you can't really bash us for anything you haven't already bashed us for. I thought it was a kind of a brilliant way to dodge a potentially bad headline of Blizzard's pretending this didn't even happen because it's their event.
Well, they can't pretend it didn't happen because it's happening it's still, going on at BlizzCon. There's all those pictures of all the people dressed as Winnie the Pooh. There's
which is also brilliant.
Out free T-shirts with May on them that say "Free Hong Kong." A couple of the people, that we knew from Game Breaker has picked up some of those shirts. So they can't just outright ignore it because it's right there on their front steps.
Yeah.
It would be really difficult to ignore that and not have some sort of backlash. And honestly, when he came out, there it goes again. When he came out and started saying, I was like, oh, maybe they're actually going to, and it almost, it was like, it was so close to being there. But the thing that was disappointing to me is that it was like, well, we regret having done this too fast. We regret having done this too slow. We just regret it was my fault, shouldering the blame, but nothing about, okay, this is, how we're going to handle things in the future. kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
nothing regarding that. And
We'll do
that's
better.
where I think
Yeah.
yeah, we will do better is not actually saying how you plan on doing better. Just we'll do better. Ooh, that's vague.
Yeah, and by the way, there has not been any statement, Jason, on the actual message itself. Like, where does Blizzard stand when it comes to human rights violations or potential human rights violations in Hong Kong? You're painted with the brush. You might as well now come and say what you think. I almost feel like, the fact that there hasn't been an acknowledgement of, while we're very concerned about what's going on there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we don't want those types of messages in our forum. It's a bad look. It's a little bit of a bad look that they haven't said something.
They can't give a specific idea.
Yeah, they can't.
They can't give specific rules.
Yeah,
so.
And it just furthers that idea of you can't because you don't want to lose out on potential Chinese money. You're beholden to a Chinese stakeholder, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I thought it was brilliant to lead with it. I was disappointed, though, Jason, that it didn't add to clarifying or how they're going to deal with things going forward. They kind of just left it as, let our actions speak louder than words. Okay, well, you've basically censored...
Actions are pretty shitty.
Yeah, your actions have basically censored the rest of your seasons on all of your competitive fronts, so that speaks pretty loudly. We'll have to see how it happens. Whether or not that statement or what happens at BlizzCon for the duration this weekend changes anybody's opinion about their current boycott, if they are boycotting Blizzard, I don't think anything's going to happen or has happened yet that's going to change that. Unless it's just the announcements were too good that you're willing to back off of your boycott. There's really nothing that's going to change on that front this weekend, I don't think. We still do have to see how they're going to handle the panels. And I think there was some confusion in the public space about how those panels have historically been held. They have always screened the questions. That's not new. The only thing that we kind of just briefly touched on in our previous episode that we were curious about is, while you may screen the questions ahead of time, which they've always done, or have a host with the mic, walking around, which they have done before, none of this is new or exclusive to this year. The wild card is the fact that you are holding a mic in front of somebody's mouth. And while you know what they're supposed to ask, because you screened it, it may not necessarily be what they ask. We'll still have to see how they handle those panels throughout the weekend. On the free-to-play front, we do have the Hearthstone news. Let's go into that, Jason. We're getting a new set. It's all about dragons. Dragons. And then we had some pretty big news on the Hearthstone front with an entire new mode. So take us through it.
Yeah, I guess all the leaks were related to World of Warcraft and Overwatch, and nobody really caught wind of this, as far as I know. But yeah, the expansion, like I said, nothing too surprising there. It's a new expansion to be called Descent of Dragons. It kind of closes out the 3 expansion story they've been telling this year with the other expansions, with Rise of Shadows and Saviors of Doom. And this is sort of like the culmination of the battle between evil and the League of Explorers and so forth. And by the name, of course, there's a lot of dragons in it. More dragons, they said, they've had in any other set. Every class is going to get a legendary dragon, so everyone will be able to do all sorts of crazy stuff there. Dragon-themed cards and so forth. Stuff like if you're holding a dragon, do this, whatever. It's going to be for a lot of different classes. The big card and the mechanic that kind of goes with it is Galakron. He's going to be a hero card, which is like the other hero cards, like the Death Knight cards from long ago. They'll replace your hero. And Galakron is tied into the new keyword, which is called Invoke. And every time you play a card with Invoke, it will kind of pump up your Galakron for when you actually play him. It increases his battle cry, which lets you draw cards that'll be played for free. If you pump him all the way up to his max level, you also equip a weapon when you play him.
And this is also whether he is actually in your hand or in your deck. When you invoke, he's going to have that bump.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old Cthulhu mechanics from expansion a long time ago, where they said, give your Cthulhu +1/+1 wherever it is, or something like that.
Yeah.
Eventually, you play Cthulhu, and then he does all sorts of crazy stuff based on how big he is. From a standpoint of, wow, is that a cool mechanic? I kind of go, eh.
Yeah, it's
very, very narrow.
Absolutely. You are going to see dragons from across Blizzard's titles, but they also said new dragons as well that are, specifically created for Hearthstone. So, yeah, new set looking forward to that.
One point I should say, too, one thing I'm going to add in there is that there are 5 Galacrons, one for like 5 different classes, and they'll all be given to you free when you log into the game after it launches.
Yep.
So
you get them all. Q, still not a Hearthstone fan, so I guess we'll just skip you on that one. I mean, there is a new mode, Battlegrounds, which Jason immediately in chat was like, uh-oh, BR incoming. The Hearthstone Battle Royale, to which Q started contemplating how that would work. How could we do that, actually?
All I said is that would be difficult, which it would.
A little bit challenging, I'm sure. But this is going to be a new 8-person mode, kind of based loosely on the auto battlers we've been seeing, where it's very, very quick matches, and the last one surviving, gets all the prizes. They really didn't go too much more into it than that, though. That was just kind of, here's the basics of it. And that is going to go into beta next week. So if I think it was if you pre-order the set, if you're at BlizzCon, if you have the virtual ticket, you'll be able to go into beta. I think it was Tuesday, Jason?
I have November
Tuesday,
12th written in my
November
notes.
12th. Maybe I'm confusing.
There's something about something coming next Tuesday, and something, I don't remember exactly, but yeah.
So what do you think? I mean, as the resident TCG guy, kind of interesting, right? I kind of think that could be fun.
When you get right down to it, auto battlers are kind of like a battle royale.
Yeah.
And that you have to recruit your stuff as you go, and you have to be the last man standing. So it is kind of like that. But yeah, apparently you're gonna do that. You're gonna recruit stuff as you go. Even has like a little list on the side. I mean, it looks kind of like an auto battler game. It looks like Dota Underlords or the League of Legends one is. I forget now. But yeah, it looks kind of like that with the list on the side. I don't know. I think it showed a brief moment of how you buy the cards, and your minions you'll put into play and so forth. And I guess then they'll just fight each other when you go get someone else. So yeah, the interesting thing I wonder about though is the monetization of it, because
like the monetization behind the arena, is it going to be similar to that style?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Is it going to cost you coins to get coins or money? Because obviously it doesn't require packs, so you recruit stuff as you go along. It's a little more like arena. So I guess that's what you'd have to do. It'd have to be a pay to get in for a match, which is again a little odd compared to other auto battlers, which are just free.
Yeah,
you just go in, you log in, you play. So I wonder if we're going to get something else.
We are both right. Open beta starts on the 12th, but you can get into the early access period November 5th, Tuesday through the 11th. If you're at BlizzCon, you had the BlizzCon virtual ticket, or you pre-purchase either of the Descent of Dragon bundle. So we were both right.
Okay, I thought there was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have any of those and aren't pre-ordering the bundles for the Descent of Dragons, the November 12th is open beta.
Just to fill that into the set launches on December 10th, the new set.
So good bit of Hearthstone news, and that was the bulk of the free-to-play news. The other stuff was, the Heroes of the Storm still operating, and StarCraft 2 is getting a new character. But I do want to hit the other big 3 announcements, because I think one of them, particularly, I do want to break into a free-to-play portion on it. But we're talking about BlizzCon, so I figure we'll mix this in here, kind of like we do for our E3 shows, where we go through the free-to-play stuff and then talk about the big announcements anyway. Q, I want to get your take first on Diablo 4, which was announced, no release date, obviously very early in the process. We got a full-blown cinematic trailer. We got a gameplay trailer. There will be panels that will probably divulge more information. I don't think we're going to get a release date or a window out of BlizzCon. Maybe a window out of BlizzCon, like a holiday 2020 type thing. But I don't know. From watching it, are you excited? Because I got to admit, I kind of dug the trailers.
Oh, the trailer, but we have to remember that is one thing that Blizzard is always really good at is
Oh yeah,
trailers.
yeah. We always say the
Like
same thing
enough
for
that
Square
we've all been
Enix.
saying for years, right? Oh, they should totally just make an animated movie. They'd be so good at it. Like, every year we pretty much say that. So trailer wise, of course, pretty much all of their trailers get me hyped for whatever it is they're trying to sell me on at the time. But yeah, I really like it. Stop at the green. Um, I really liked, and I love it whenever Lilith shows up in anything because she
Yes,
always just makes whatever it is that she's in a million times more awesome. Like
I
she, as
agree.
far as like myth and legends go, that is the lady you want in your stuff. So I'm super excited about that.
I am a Diablo fan. I do enjoy my Diablo 3. I haven't played it lately, but it is one that I jump in and out of on a pretty consistent basis. Every couple of months, play for a while. Haven't played it in probably like 2 months now, but I love my Diablo 3. Looking forward to Diablo 4. I hope we don't get any stupid announcements out of BlizzCon like we did when Diablo 3 was announced, like a cash auction house and stuff like that. Jason, I don't know, are you a Diablo fan in general? I actually don't think we've ever talked about this.
I actually played Diablo 1 when it first came out for about half an hour. That's my Diablo experience.
Did this make you want to try Diablo 4, or are you interested in it? Are you going to watch
Wait,
watch
are
it?
you
Do you
just
want
It was
to
a
know
nice
more
trailer.
info?
I agree. It was a very nice trailer.
Are you anti ARPG?
I am a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the mode. I got through Path of Exile. Now I've even found out that when I play an ARPG too much, all the clicking and so it actually hurts my hand. So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
so
That is.
I got old hands now, and I can't play ARPGs.
Yeah, I mean,
much.
we knew you weren't into
Yeah.
Torchlight when we talked about, Torchlight
Yeah.
Frontiers and Torchlight 1 and 2, and that's more Q and my favorites than yours. So I guess Diablo 4 will be just you and I.
Yeah.
But, Jason, I know you are going to pick up Overwatch 2, right?
Man, if I didn't dislike Blizzard as much as I do, it'd be automatic. Right now, it's still in the mostly probably yes category. But apart from that, yeah, I would totally pick it up.
Yeah, so we did get an official Overwatch 2 announcement, which we expected was coming from some leaked and data mined materials prior to
I
BlizzCon.
love Jeff Kaplan.
That was a great introduction to that. By
Jeff
the way,
is not okay.
Yeah. If you didn't watch it, he came out on stage and he said he forgot everything he was supposed to say, but luckily he had his phone there and he said the internet has already supplied me with everything I'm supposed to say up here. It was a very funny nod to the data mined and leaked material. There was another data mined thing as well in the World of Warcraft presentation as well when data mining was referenced. Both very comedically. They were well done. So we do have Overwatch 2 on the horizon. More maps, at least one more hero that they did confirm. They said there will be other new heroes. All the original 31 are still going to be there. They're introducing a new mode called Push, which kind of looked like Payload to me. Was that the impression you guys got too?
I didn't get a good look at it, so I have to go back and watch it. I was like taking notes while I was doing that, so it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it looked like
Yeah.
Go ahead, Q.
It looked like that kind of thing, except they have a big robot thing talking about how good it is at pushing stuff.
Yeah, they have a robot
that's right,
pushing a
yeah.
big thing back and forth, and it changes directions. It looked like a payload type match.
So maybe
to
like
me.
a back and forth payload kind of thing.
Yeah, like you see in Paladins or in Team Fortress, that type of match. That's what it looked like. Could be wrong, but that's just what it appeared to me. The first thing that jumped in when I see this robot changing directions and pushing, a big payload back and forth. I think the key things here is we kind of hoped, we were curious, Jason, a little bit on, do you really do an Overwatch 2? You have so much invested in Overwatch League right now, trying to get that to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Do you really? Is it the time to do an Overwatch 2? And if you do an Overwatch 2, is it a standalone thing, or is it just more an expansion to Overwatch? When we saw the initial leaks, and I kind of think that it's a mix of both when they when they got into it. Overwatch 2 will add things, a new game mode, some heroes, a new look for the heroes, some new co-op replayable PvE experiences that they deemed highly replayable. Not just replayable, but highly replayable. But they also said, hey, by the way, if you own Overwatch and you don't own Overwatch 2 when it comes out, you will still be able to play on the new maps and play with the new characters and stuff like that because they don't want to break their audience across 2 titles. And you'll be able to bring all of your cosmetics and everything with you, which to me was a straight middle finger to Destiny and how they screwed over players with Destiny 2. So I feel like it was kind of a nice compromise between we want to do a sequel and add more to it, but we also are trying to grow this Overwatch League and don't want to all of a sudden say, yeah, that's the old game, we're moving to the new one.
The thing, when we ask about generally, should they have done this, my first thought, because what I've been hearing about in a lot of the stuff and so forth, was I thought it was just going to be, and this is what they talked about too, is Overwatch 2 is going to be very focused on PvE.
Yeah.
And that is what they devoted a
like
lot
almost
of
to as a standalone title type thing is what
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
hearing.
Yeah, with the highly replayable co-op, you level up your heroes, customize your abilities, all sorts of stuff. Like a little more like almost like a co-op game, like if you played Left 4 Dead or something like that. So I thought, okay, if you're going to do that and leave the PvP over in Overwatch, that makes sense. I think that having a new game, we're going to do this kind of new stuff with characters you recognize, that makes sense. When they added push, when they talk about adding push to the PvP mode, and they say it's going to be in the Overwatch League. That was the part where I went a little, Now you make me wonder, why do I stick with Overwatch 1? Because if you're gonna have a PvP mode in 2, and that's gonna be a primary mode that you use in your competitive, it feels to me like it kind of pushes aside the first game. So that's the only part of it I'm a little iffy about.
Q, your thoughts on an Overwatch 2?
Well, honestly, I hadn't even considered, because I was just like, well, of course, it's Overwatch. They're going to add some sort of new mode in it. So it didn't even occur to me, that concern that he just had. As far as the rest of it goes, I'm super glad they are making sure everybody gets all the stuff they earned in the original Overwatch into. Like, I think that's just kind of the way that these things should go at this point. And while I was watching it and they were discussing all the stuff, all I could think is, I would actually just seriously sit and play an Overwatch RPG.
That's basically what it is, practically. It's going to be
Like, I would sit and just, sit and play the story that they've got for the background story of that game. I'd sit and play it.
People have been wanting that for years. They've been wanting to do more of the story, we've wanted PvE content.
And they said that
they do
in the keynote.
Side stuff. Right, they do a lot of side stuff too, because that was the whole plan originally, comic books and shorts and whatever. But then you have to go looking for those things if you're not paying attention, and I'd rather just have it right there.
Q, you want to unplug your camera and plug it back in, maybe? Oh, never mind. There we go.
No, because we did that last time. We did it last time, and it.
What is going on?
It's got to be somewhere in between. The upload,
like the actual VSC.
No, because I've been messing with it and that has not been helping. Like, it's just,
so
my
bizarre.
whole computer's going to crap. So
Could be anything.
I just can't do anything about it right now.
We didn't expect this announcement, but we were kind of hoping for this announcement, particularly if Overwatch 2 rumors were true, that the original Overwatch would convert to a free-to-play formula. Obviously, that did not happen, or we probably would have been leading with that. Jason, do you think good idea, bad idea? If you're going to pump out the sequel, why not make the base game? For all intents and purposes, it's more a base game than the prequel. Why not make it free at that point with the incentive of jump in, play it, and then if you like it, buy the PvE stuff in Overwatch 2? Or do you think this was...
going to be mad at me again?
Uh-oh, go for it.
No, because of the earlier thing we had a while back.
Yeah.
But yeah. But the reason I can see that they didn't, though, I think they still will. I can see that they will, but closer to when 2 comes out. Like, they don't have to do that now. They can build that hype up later. We might. Overwatch 1 was announced at BlizzCon 2014. it actually launched in like May of 2016. It's like a year and a half later.
Yeah, I mean,
So
because it went to beta like right after BlizzCon.
No. It went to like, well,
there was like tremendously more playable than anybody thought was going to be playable at BlizzCon when they announced Overwatch. That was kind of a surprise announcement, and then having it be that playable.
I think it was like what we see now, where they have like Diablo 4. You can play Diablo 4 at BlizzCon, but it's only a little bit of it. I think it's the same thing. The actual full beta, where anyone can get into it theoretically, I think didn't start till like a year later. But the point is that we're probably at least a year and a half away from seeing Overwatch 2 come out.
Well, when was it announced?
BlizzCon 2014 came out in May of 2016.
Yeah, you're right. So beta was like a little less than a year later is when beta started.
It was like late 2015 or early.
Yeah, it was like September, October 2015. So about 10 months.
Maybe they actually announced the beta started BlizzCon that next year. Maybe that's what you're thinking or something. I don't know. But anyway, the point is they have a long time to build up that hype and to get people into it, to get that possible. Yeah, if they do decide to go free to play later. And the thing that I someone else pointed out online, which I noticed too, they only launched on Switch like a month ago.
Yeah.
So the launch on Switch, get people to pay their $40 and go free to play.
It's not that great right now.
Yeah.
It's not.
But
that
yeah,
great.
that would probably have caused a little more consternation.
Yeah, and I think that's the only reason they didn't. I agree with you that I think that Overwatch, the original, eventually hits free to play, and I think the only thing that kept it from being announced was how recently the Switch launched. Because other than that, Q, I don't think there's any downside. You announce free to play now and soak up, whatever it is, a year of sales, a year and a half of, in-game sales from players who. If you don't have Overwatch now, you probably don't care and aren't buying Overwatch. You just that's the reality of it. It's old enough and popular enough that if you were even remotely nobody that buys Overwatch is all of a sudden just finding out about Overwatch. It's just we're past that. We're way past that. So I think, Q, that Jason's right. The only thing that probably stopped that from being announced now is how recently it launched on the Switch, and we'll see it like 10 months down the road.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because I mean, how pissed off would you be if you just got it on the Switch and they're like, okay, no.
Yeah, I'd absolutely be furious. Anything else from the keynote? I guess we got to cover World of Warcraft. It's getting an expansion.
Yeah, and the official word I hear from the other part of my room is it's kind of meh looking.
It's No,
Where'd you go?
I just disconnected my camera because it froze real quick. Really? That's your better half is saying that it's just kind of meh looking. I
mean, of course, again, the cinematic looks great, but she wants to know more about the actual thing.
Well,
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we all do, but I don't know how long your better half's been into WoW. Probably a long time.
The whole time. She said I've been playing it half my life now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So obviously I was super geeked to see Icecrown Citadel. I was a big fan of the data mined images. We were like, whoa, wait, are we going back to Icecrown? And we are, but not in the way that those initial images thought we were going there. Sylvanas is pulling some shit and screwing things up a little bit. I want to know more too, but I don't think, to me, it wasn't just meh. But it may have to do with how much I loved Icecrown Citadel and Wrath of the Lich King, that expansion, and how much I love the Sylvanas character herself. So I'll admit, maybe I'm a little biased. They hit the right notes for me personally on this one to make me more than meh happy at it.
Rope you in.
They totally did.
Hey, here's something we did 10 years ago that you love. Let's bring it back.
Exactly. They totally did. They totally did.
You're so bitter.
I'm not bitter. I'm sad for you, Mike. I'm sad. Sad for everyone who's going to ride that nostalgia train and be like, wow, I don't like this.
Hey, well, I never played WoW Classic. I will say that. I've never jumped into WoW Classic. While I am a nostalgia freak, I mean, I jump into Final Fantasy XI, for God's sake, still. I was like, no. I remember that as being fun, but I also remember it as way more grindy than I even wanted it to be then. I don't have the time to do it now, but more power to them. It seems to be going well. And well enough, Q, to serve vanilla ice cream in the cafeteria at BlizzCon.
Just the entire delivery of that was just. I think they thought that was going to go over, like, come out way differently than it did. It was just so.
Like, they probably thought it was going to be funny. It wasn't. It was just like, oh, that's cute. That's cute. So Shadowlands, the expansion for World of Warcraft, launch date next year, probably around this same time, and pre-sales already up. Wow. Yeah, I don't know if
money as soon as you can.
I don't know if launching a pre-sale in the middle of a boycott, no matter how big or small you may perceive it to be, I think announcing pre-sales for anything in the middle of a boycott is just generally not the best time to announce that you're having a pre-sale.
Have you actually seen the screenshots people have of, like, players who completely, wiped their accounts, are now trying to get a hold of Blizzard going, how do I get my account back?
No, I
Yeah,
didn't
I saw
yet.
that. I saw one of those.
I saw a bunch of people canceling their Warcraft 3 Reforged pre-orders, which, by the way, that's getting ready to open up into a bigger beta as well. So there's a lot in the keynote, unfortunately. Not really a lot on the free-to-play front, but we've talked about it all. We want to get your opinion. Let us know, because after you watch BlizzCon for the rest of the weekend, there might be some additional details. Let us know what your favorite BlizzCon item is. That'll be our question of the week when we get down to it. Moving on, Jason, League of Legends. I love behind-the-scenes shit like this, and this was like really honest. It seemed really honest and genuine. So I'm a big fan of this. League of Legends, in this whole like 10 year anniversary thing, obviously went through a bunch of announcements, which we covered on the last show, but also opened up to the Washington Post with a lot of like retrospective stuff during development, and there were some surprising things in there. Like, apparently the game was shit at the beginning to the point that even the devs had to be forced to play it.
Yeah. Apparently, one of the early employees there, so it was like the second employee they brought on. He's now the producer for Legends of Runeterra, a guy named Jeff Jew. He said that, we had to be forced to play. We were playing other stuff in the office. They told us to stop and play League of Legends, and we didn't want to because he said, quote, it really sucked for a long time. So,
that they were forced to play it.
That's what he said. That's the word he said, forced. So, and it got better. It eventually got better a few months before launch, and they finally made it work.
Q, at one point, and this is hard to imagine, at one point, they were down to like 2 months of cash left. That was it. They could operate the business for like 2 more months, and that was it. It was all on the line when League of Legends launched. Can you imagine a world where League of Legends isn't League of fucking Legends? Like, because I can't. And to hear this kind of stuff that, it's 10 years later, we're hearing it was this close to not even being a thing. Like, this close to not even being a remote thing. I think it's fascinating to see stuff like that.
Well, I mean, in answer to your question, yes, I can imagine a world without League of Legends.
Not that hard.
It's really not. It's not that difficult to imagine a world where League of Legends, ended up not being a thing. But, in the whole splitting timeline thing, there probably is that world. So,
here we go. Cue the Time Lord.
That's why it's green. She's in the alternate dimension where everything is green.
Right.
Well, right. Yeah, exactly. I'm in a green dimension right now. But I mean, it obviously for a lot of people, they probably wouldn't. And I think it's easier for me to imagine too, because I don't play the game.
Well, I don't either, but it is, you cannot deny that it is a huge game,
it is a
huge money maker.
thing.
It does have a pop culture influence, and has for many, many years
But
now.
It's like saying, would it be, can I imagine a world where, where Final Fantasy literally ended up being their Final Fantasy? Yes, I can imagine where that happened. I mean, it's just a possibility. So
I think you're taking my question a little too literally.
It's great that it didn't happen.
True. And Jason, this was the most stunning to me because we covered, this game because of its free to play and things like that. Obviously not at launch. Neither of us was doing too much on this front at launch. And maybe at Beckett, I don't know. Did Heroes of
I might have
Newerth
come up once or twice.
Yeah, Heroes of Newerth sneak in there at Beckett while you were there. I wasn't doing video game content yet, so when it launched. But I did cover Heroes of Newerth for MMO Bomb. It's funny to hear how worried they were about that game because it looked better, it played better. They were really, really worried. Now you look back and you're like, wait a minute. Were they ever in direct competition? I always thought League of Legends was, here and Heroes here. They were actually, in competition for a while. And it all came down to, of all things, pricing model.
Mm-hmm. Because Heroes of Newerth wasn't free to play and League of Legends was. And according to some of the guys there, he said, and all those players flipped and they came to League of Legends because we were free to play. But they're talking about players in Asia, especially. So yeah, that was the big difference right there, and that's what got them over. That's why we hear about esports in South Korea all the time now. It's because of League of Legends being free to play and Heroes of Newerth not. And the comparison I like to give was back in the 1998 NFL draft, who's going to be better, Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf?
Right.
That's the question people were having.
Yeah.
And now, wow.
Yeah. Now you look back, and you're like, was that even a question?
That was a thing. Yeah.
Seriously?
I don't even know who the second person is, but I'm from the area.
That proves the point. That proves.
Well, I'm from the area that the Mannings are from, so they came to eat at our restaurant that I worked at and stuff. So I know who they are.
That absolutely just proved the point, Q.
That's kind of it. Yeah. You wouldn't have heard of them if Peyton Manning hadn't been a big deal. Is the point.
Finally, before we move on to the weekly bombs, we do have another game going free to play. It'll happen in November, so a couple of weeks here. Legends of Aria going free to play, the sandbox MMORPG that, for some unknown reason to me, decided being a niche product, it would launch with both a box fee and a subscription. In this day and age, while not carrying the Warcraft or Final Fantasy IP behind it, it decided to go ahead and launch with a box fee and a sub, and predictably, it is going free to play. Not totally free to play. There is still going to be the optional sub. They're taking the box fee off. There are some limitations as a free-to-play player. Most of it revolves around the idea of housing and land ownership, things like that. You can check out the site for the full details there. We're going to have an interview with these guys. Jason, I got to talk to you about this, by the way. I don't know if you're going to do it or I'll do it, because it'll probably be a Skype call with all of them. And maybe I'll do, I know I did in the past like a few special edition free-to-play casts where it was just, a 20-minute interview and it was not a numbered episode. Maybe I'll do that. We'll talk about it. They're still going to send us some dates that they want to do this. And one of the questions I'm going to ask them, anybody that's watched me do interviews knows I can tend to be a little blunt. One of the questions I'm going to ask is, why on earth did you think that you could launch a very particularly niche sandbox MMORPG in 2019 with a box fee and a sub? Like, what made you think that was going to work? I don't think any of us are surprised this is going free to play, are we? Q, you've been battling whether it's free or not every time. Every time for like the last 6 months, I get a Legends of Aria presser. Q normally gets it at the same time because we're both on the list. And I'll get hey, I just got this Legends of Aria presser. Do you want me to write it up? Q, that's not free to play. Oh shit.
Okay,
I keep forgetting.
no, that's so not how that works. I'll just find something online. I've never gotten anything from them.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, you get the shrouds of the avatar.
And you send me the shroud of the avatar, and I
right.
turn around and tell you this is the same news that they gave us the week before, and the week before that, and
so
the week
you
before
see like, oh, here's a Legends piece on MMORPG. Should we cover it? Q, that's not free to play. Oh shit, I forgot. Q, that's not free to play. Oh shit, I forgot. Q, that's not free to play. Now it's free to play, Q. So anytime you see Legends of Aria, go ahead and write it up. Totally good to write it up. No surprises here, though, Q. I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer. Looking at its Steam charts, which I'm sure Jason already has, it absolutely
should have been free to play because I kept thinking it was.
Jason, no surprise from your end, sir.
No, but for a game that is, as you said, in early access, has a box price, has no anything behind it, it's still getting triple the population of PlanetSide Arena.
Well, I mean, come on. We do have to full disclosure there. We're tripling 50. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
we're tripling 50. Steam charts right now has it at 167. All-time peak was only 1150.
Now, granted, they only just came to Steam like 3 months ago. They have their own servers. So they have their own servers. They have even more players than this, but we don't see it all.
We don't see it all. Definitely, I think it has to. I don't think this is we would just like to increase the size of our audience. I think this is we have to increase the size of our audience. So we'll see how it goes. I have not played it yet myself. I will play it when we see the free-to-play version so that the first look is done with the same limitations you will have. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's head over to the weekly bombs. Q, you're up while you're not green.
Well, I'm not great. So two to bombs. One, we actually have functioning water again. We haven't for the last 2 months because our pipe broke and we've been having to go out and turn it on and off. So actually being able to turn on the water without doing that is great. Two, I'm super excited because the BBC Children in Need album dropped today, and it is the most amazing thing ever. It's like all my favorite actors doing covers of songs. So like David Tennant and Olivia Colman and Jodie Whittaker, two of the Doctors, singing on an album together. It's awesome.
Green.
Jason, you're up.
So when I thought we were going to do the cast yesterday, and I saw what the weather forecast was like, I was going to give an A-bomb for the bad weather on Halloween, preventing kids from going out doing trick-or-treating, because we had candy upstairs. We were going to hand it out. Now, first of all, we didn't do the cast yesterday, and it actually didn't start raining until about 9 o'clock or so. So I actually did give out a good bit of candy. But what I was going to do, in lieu of being able to give out candy on Halloween night, when we get down to the viewer bombs, I'm going to rate each of them with a piece of candy. I'm going to give you my impression of it and use the name of a piece of candy to rate them. So, A-bomb to the bad weather, but make sure to pause after each one so I can rate it properly.
I can't wait.
It should be interesting.
And by the way, again, as usual, I have not looked at bombs beforehand.
Yeah,
so.
You never read them beforehand, so this will be interesting. This isn't free to play, but I have to give a bomb so far to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, the new version. And I know that like everybody that watches the free-to-play cast and has ever listened to me on this show is now freaking out. Like, what the hell are you talking about? The only copies of Call of Duty that have ever been in my house for like the last 10 years or so, since maybe the PlayStation 2 era, PlayStation 1 even, they have been used copies that my kids just wanted to buy because they had like extra birthday money and they were at GameStop or whatever. And so I have never bought a Call of Duty in like 10 years or so. You know me, I'm not huge into PvP in general. There's very select games, Destiny 2 we've talked about before, that I'm enjoying it. But I saw the reviews for the campaign. I want to check out the campaign. I have put in almost now, since we didn't do the show yesterday, a total of almost 30 hours into Call of Duty's PvP. Yeah, you heard that right, Jason. Into their PvP. Me. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. I can definitely see why, though, I would enjoy this more than other ones, because apparently in looking at reviews and people that have longtime players, if there's a totally different feel to PvP, it's a little bit slowed down, a little bit more strategy, positioning, not as much run-and-gun Twitch response as previous titles, and that is definitely more up my alley than, a twitchy run-and-gun type shooter, so I get it. So I got to give it a bomb.
Are the enemies signs? Because I know you can hit those.
That was years ago. Can you stop bringing that up?
No.
I hit one sign on a golf course.
That and my leprechaun outfit, I will never let go from that game.
From the viewers, Emiko-chan, da-bomb to Riot, finally making more than one game. I love fighting games, and it's nice to see such a big company bringing a new IP to the FGC. All right, Jason and Miko Chan's candy rating.
I'm going to rate that 3 Musketeers, one for each of the games that they're bringing out.
This is going to hurt. Go ahead, Jason.
Frumblefoot says, I hope the Riot fighting game will inject some much-needed capital into the FGC sports arena. Let's see. And for that, I'm going to have to give it a Twix for how they managed to inject the caramel into the little cookie bars.
Greenie.
William Hewen. I mean, this starts out, so that's not me talking. I mean, I could be okay with what Blizzard did if they changed their corporate phrases like every voice matters. Blizzard is huge on the digital pat on the back when it aligns with profits. And it's clear now that money is all that matters. We already knew that, but now that was made very clear. So let's go. So let go of that stupid every voice matters thing. And maybe someday I'll spend a little money on EA Blizzard games.
Activision Blizzard is what it should be, but yeah.
Right, Activision Blizzard games, maybe. Until then, just nope. And it won't even affect me because I have a huge non-Activision Blizzard backlog. Okay,
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if they meant Activision Blizzard or if they were talking about they don't buy EA games or Blizzard games. Yeah, I don't know.
We need to clarify that. Otherwise, it's Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the biggest problems with this. Wasn't that a company, the NBA got its own backlash and other companies got its own backlash, but Blizzard, to William's point, this is one of their values that's on the damn statue outside is every voice matters, and then coming and saying, except that one, you're banned. Yeah, it looks kind of bad. Jason, the candy rating on this one?
That was pretty easy. Got to give it $100,000.
Oh, boy. God, how many more left do we have? The Blackwood says, I think it's correct what Blizzard does here. It's called esports. Political statements are also banned and hard punished for Olympic sports. I don't see a reason why this should be different. The only thing I had a problem with was their overreaction taking away old prize money was going too far. I doubt Olympic sports would do that, except if you've cheated and therefore not deserved to earn money. Olympic sports, they don't get paid, but I see your point. They get their medals. They get their medals taken away.
Sure.
If they would have fined them to some reasonable amount, okay, but it's so random to take away the prize money because if you had a lot before you're hit harder than if you had fewer or none. So it seems very random. Good point. Like you a violation early in the season, the penalty's not as stiff for the same violation later if it's prize money is just taken away. So I disagree on that one harsh penalty, but the correct one I think is fine. I think they have a rule, no politics in their streams. If you break such a rule, you get a penalty. It has nothing to do with the fact if you agree on the topic or not. Jason, the candy rating.
I'm going to give that Skittles. Taste that rainbow.
God damn, one left or two left. Go ahead.
2 left. Offie says there are no QA at BlizzCon, only for WoW, and it's not a normal Q&A. We've clarified this before. You have to write the question down, and Blizzard staff will read it up. And also, how come you never talk about Lotro? Because it's Lotro. It's not that impressive anymore.
Amazon Game Studios apparently came out and said that you will be able to tell the difference between their Lord of the Rings MMORPG coming up and Lotro at a glance, I think the rest of the internet was like, I think you want to describe what you're trying to say differently because we would fucking hope so. The game's 12 years old at this point. It should visually at a glance. Like they were trying to say something, and I understand what they were trying to say, but what they actually said was it'll look better. And yeah, it should. But so Jason, I know there was something you wanted to bring up on Lord of the Rings Online, wasn't there? I figured I'd put this one in there so that you didn't want to talk about it?
No, not especially.
All right.
I mean,
they get that whole expansion thing or whatever it is?
Yeah, they got an expansion, and some people are pissed off about loot. One guy is pissed off about loot boxes.
Oh, I thought you wanted to talk about the expansion. I figured I'd let you talk about Lotro, but even you don't want to talk about Lotro anymore, which means it's in bad shape.
I gave up on Lotro before I gave up on Guild Wars 2. That's how long ago it was.
What's the candy rating on Lotro?
Well, because it's Lotro, it's got to be lifesavers because they're rings.
Oh, all right. That one's clever. You were
Wait
losing.
till you hear the next. I've already looked at the next one. I got that one.
You
figured
were
out.
losing
Go
me,
ahead.
but now you have me back. Finish strong. Q, what's the last bomb?
Lava Slug. The letter from Congress seemed fake to me.
Well, before we go to the candy rating, the letter from Congress might have seemed fake, but was 100% legit. Actually was written up and sent.
If it were fake, I'm pretty sure AOC would have said something. They're like, that wasn't me.
Jason, the last bomb, what's the candy rating?
This one's also pretty easy because everyone in Congress is pretty much an asshole. So I give them Hershey's.
Oh, God. Question of the week last week. Does Legends of Runeterra appeal to you? What stops it from being another artifact? Excel Kobayashi says, the only Riot game that looked interesting to me was Project F, which you guys didn't mention. You're right. We didn't mention Project F. The reason was because all we got was like 2 seconds on a stream video with an acknowledgement of the fact that it existed. That was it. Now, if you see the 2 or 3 seconds, it kind of looked like, one of those click-to-move dungeon crawlers, and, maybe it could be a little RPG-ish or Diablo-ish in that area. But that was literally it. So we didn't have much to say on Project F, but you're absolutely right, Excel. We did not bring it up, so I'm glad you did. Go ahead, Jason.
Beckner Catalan says, I'm no longer getting excited about games that aren't close to releasing anymore. If you don't have a set release date, I ain't even interested.
Fair enough. Q.
Goes reading from the Runeterra FAQ and seeing how they want to monetize the game sounds like a lot of what they were doing with League of Legends, which is interesting. I think this is the first time in so many years that I'm finally going to play a different card game that's not Hearthstone. It looks like a good mix between Magic and Hearthstone.
And Jason, I think that's kind of right where you and I put it when we were talking about it. It kind of treads the line, trying to pull from both audiences, and makes me want to check it out.
I hear that, but that's what everyone says. We're more strategic like Magic and not as random as Hearthstone. We're right in the middle. Perfect for everyone. Okay.
Question of the week this week. What was your favorite BlizzCon announcement? Whether it happened in the opening ceremony or over the weekend here, put it in the comments below. While you're there, don't forget to give us your weekly bombs. D-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad in the world of gaming, or your question for the panel, or just your thoughts on life in general. And Jason will give you candy ratings. Until next week, Q, where can everybody find you?
Hanging out on Twitter at Quitland.
Jason.
On Twitter at Winter Informal, streaming twitch.tv/Jason Winter.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there on Twitter at magicman1, but more importantly, while you're there, follow at MMOBomb so you can get tweets about all the latest videos, first look videos, new articles, news, interviews, previews, and so much more. And don't forget to check out the giveaways page. Until next time, gang, stay safe. And we'll see you out on the green servers. We really got to figure that green thing out.
I honestly don't know what it, and there's so, my computer has reached the stage where it's just so fucking old at this point.
Let's try
I don't have money to
let's
like
try Discord next
it.
week. Let's see if it's a Skype thing with your computer.
Yeah, I don't know
Discord.
if it's that or if it's like maybe my headset is doing something weird.
By the way,
like,
I recorded all of this and I'm leaving it in at the last title splash screen. For anybody that wants to listen to us.
You're such an asshole.
I was going to swear too, so just as well. I mean,
yeah, I don't care.
Actually, what I was really going to say was, I was hoping someone would have like talking about how much they love like farming in game, and then I could call them a Jolly Rancher. But yeah.
Well.
Oh yeah. Now I'm going to stop recording now.